All right, welcome everyone at the next Multi-Network Community Sync. We have June 4th, a few items to go over. I think Doug, you're in. You have first items.
Yeah, thank you, Mache. So I wanted to share with the group that I am taking a new job as an internal transfer at Red Hat. So likely my upstream focus is going to change. So yeah, for a little bit more information, but yeah, I'm moving to a team working on ML ops for VLLM is kind of the upstream that I'll be contributing to. So yeah, I'll have a bit of a change in focus here, and I wanted to kind of, share that with this group. And I also wanted to share hopefully some inspiration for you guys to carry on this like good work. I see it as a, continuation to something that we kind of tried to spur on in 2017 with the Network Plumbing Working Group, and everyone in this group has been putting in a lot of hard work for like what's a really challenging problem. And yeah, I just have like utmost respect for people in this group, and I'm excited to move on to a new chapter of my career, but I'm also like feeling a little emotional attachment to some of these efforts. So yeah, I wanted to kind of let everybody know, and I'll try to pop in now and again. Like I'm still like very interested in what happens with infra for networking under AIML workloads. I see this kind of stuff that's being worked on here and the DRA integration as being critical to it. So hopefully I have an excuse at some point, but chances are I'm gonna have to have a big change in focus. But I'll try to show up here and again to say hi, but probably a bit of change in focus. So yeah, I wanted to let you guys know.
Uh, Thanks, Doug, for letting us know. Yeah, you were always great help here and great motivation on pushing this. So that's true. Yeah, thanks for all your help as well. And yeah, good luck on your new in your new team.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thanks for the time
Sure.
too, guys.
All right. Um, all right. Let's Doug, anything else?
That'll do it from my side. Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Anyone else from your area, maybe that's gonna attend this or have interested in the multi-network? Do you know?
So
That's
I
gonna maybe
have hopefully so there was I I'm not going to put any names on the public
sure.
on the public recording, but I have written it up as, what I think is a critical area for folks in my team as part of my transition plan, and I've made some recommendations on folks.
Mm,
So hopefully I won't leave you hanging, and you'll get some more help from the Red Hat
sure.
side. I personally think that, we've got vested interest in this. We've been doing multi-networking stuff for a long time. I do think the world is changing for networking and Kubernetes with DRA.
Yeah.
So I'm really hopeful that Red Hat sees the value and gets somebody in here to help you guys keep pushing it through.
All right. Thanks for that. All right. Let's move on. So I have some demo, not much in it, but I think the first two things that we discussed till now with this is kind of the standardization. So maybe let's just get to it. Window. What I want to share this guy. Is this good enough? Can you see me typing? Is that big enough for everyone? All right.
We can.
So I have a small cluster here. Get nodes, some free nodes. I have a DRA net. Where was it? The grab. So I have some two DRA on two of the nodes, the two workers. I have my DRA net running, and what I did hack and slash DRA net. So this is my version of DRA net. What I want to show you is this as well. So currently the DRA is listing some Cilium device here, but this is like another device that I added to the nodes. This is another interface with some random IP I just added just to have the sake of the kind of this demo. And you can see there is no PCI, there is no pod network. So basically this is the first approach where you remember how we talked on, do we discover when the pod network shows up, or do we we just add the label? This is I took the approach of, we will add the pod network when we create the pod network. So let me do that. The demo isn't fully dynamic, so in one aspect. So I will just create the pod network, and just as I'm gonna create it, I'm just gonna now show it to you. So what is the pod network looks like is what we discussed, right? I created a blue pod network. It's enabled. So this feature flag doesn't work yet. What's important is the parameters, right? And I went very straightforward. I said all the interface with the name ENS224 will belong to this pod network, right? So that's kind of straightforward filtering that I did here to kind of how do I then identify my device, right? I just kind of tweaked into the DRA capability. I didn't want to expand it more, so I just wanted to kind of get something quick and dirty. So let's see, did that help? Yeah, they can see now the same device on the same slice now has a DRA net pod network. And I went with, by the way, the DRA.net, the provider's prefix for now. This is what my doc as well states. So I have my pod network blue created, right? Added to the attributes of that device, right? And you can see that's only one of these have it. What's next left to do, and before I'm going to before applying it, let me show you that test pod, this guy. So I'm gonna just run two things. I'm gonna create a pod that points to some interface pod network here. This is the same example that DRANet shows, and basically this is the magic here. The class is DRANet. This is the standard DRANet class that comes with the with DRANet. And then one thing that's here, you can see that I have my pod network blue. And this is one thing I learned as I was doing the POC. So something that we have to take into account, since not all the devices will have the pod network field, you have to create a HAS. And this is all boiling down to how cell functions. It's not DRA specific. It is cell specific to kind of first test whether the pod network on a specific device exists, to then later on try it. When I didn't have this, the scheduler just crashed and nothing happened because it was saying that he found objects that didn't have this guy, and that's kind of unfortunate. I talked
Maciej, that sounds like a bug, to be honest. Like,
this is a cell BOE functionality. Oh, you're saying about the failure in scheduler?
Yeah. Like, I think cell would basically should in this case say I don't match instead of just like blowing up. It probably is a bug in the use of cell.
That's a fair point. Right now,
yeah.
that's what it happens. And I got from John a recommendation. There is this notation with a question mark in front of the field, but I was unable to get it function. So
you might want to file an issue, or maybe follow up with John and see if we just file an issue, because cell, technically speaking, should be like ostensibly bulletproof. Like that's
So this is something that I run.
I think this isn't an error, Bowie. I think this is this is working as intended. I think it's called out in their specification explicitly
that the scheduler crashes.
not that the scheduler crashes, but the fact that if you access some field through a cell expression which does not exist, it will return an error. So it's not that the scheduler is crashing, it's just the fact that
It's
because you failed to
I'm
pass the
calling
cell
crashing, but yes, the error is there in your
Oh, I
description
see.
of the pod. Sorry, maybe I exaggerated.
Okay, I thought
Apologies.
it like blew up.
It is kind of that the pod is not schedulable and returns you an error. The pod network field doesn't exist, right? That's what it happens, right?
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
I think
I don't know. I would have imagined
Interesting.
this kind of.
so. But does that get thrown on every single pod?
Yes,
That's
because
the bug. That's a bug. Because
Uh,
imagine you have a single resource claim and it causes every single pod in your cluster to just get
No.
some error dumped on it.
not only those that
Not-
have the resource claim.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, sorry.
Only
Okay.
those that have the resource claim. No. Don't. Every pod that would reference this, right? So
Okay.
I hope you cannot hear there is someone's cleaning up the street and it's noisy. I hope it doesn't get to you.
Okay. I see. Okay. So that's less. That's
Yeah,
different
it's kind of maybe it is limited to the just the cell expression, right, and how cell works. And from what Gaurav says, apparently that has to be like that, and then you just need to make sure your cell is just correct, right? I need to maybe dig more into the question mark notation. The cell official documentation has this as an optional piece, but I was unable to do something like this. It was blowing for me as well, where I was doing like that, right, with pod network and then blue. It was unable to evaluate that. All right, so let me now apply this. So right now I created my pod and this get pod. Okay, hopefully it's running. Yay, my demo probably gonna work. And this is the last thing that I want to show you. This is the resource claim, right? This is our expression. This is the allocations and then device, right? There is the data to match up the device with the stuff. This is the other stuff. This is the network data from Lionel, the hardware, the interface, and the IP, right? And basically that's this. This is the kind of current stage of where we at, what we want to do. I will link in the notes the path to this changes of the DRA net. You can try it yourself. One aspect that I did, be wary of that, is the current pod network that I'm importing is in. If you look at that, this guy is in networking Kubernetes IO group, which requires a annotation to kind of be applied. There is the CRD needs that because it's that group needs an approval. So you just need to add annotation to CRD if you want to create that. I will call it out in the notes. Other questions?
I think it's a great demo. If you want to create another pod, you cannot currently. Is that correct? Because you cannot point to the same device from another resource claim.
I haven't tried that, but why not? Let's do that. To be honest with you,
because the first resource claim will point to this device ENS 224 that is in the resource slice, and it will say it's already in use.
Yeah, I hope not, because that will be what you're saying exactly. Let's see. Try. Let's try that.
I'm just asking, but this will be fixed in the next release with the consumable capacity.
What is the question, Lionel? Again, can you please repeat?
So this resource claim here is pointing to the same device as the first resource claim, and the first resource claim is already claimed.
Yes.
So the second one will not be scheduled.
Yes, exactly. So like this will only function with one single pod. If you need to use multiple pods, you'll have to use a resource claim template or something like that. Is
It is
No,
running.
no. Okay.
Interestingly, it's running. Let's see. What happened? Reserved for 2 pods because I have another node with the same configuration, right? This is
Oh, okay.
strange.
Okay, because you have 2 pods, but they are pointing to the same resource claim.
Dash or white. I have 2 nodes with the same configuration. Oh, it landed on the same node. Oh, that's impossible. Okay, so this is somehow bad. So maybe this is some bug in DRA net that. Okay, I need to dig into that. That's interesting. Because this should be. I would imagine this should be scheduled on node 2 because node 2 has the same thing. Let's see. I think I showed you DRA 3, and let me show you slice. This is the slice, right?
Your pod, your second pod, is utilizing the same resource claim as the first one, and this should not happen, right?
Yeah, I don't know what's. I think there is some bug in DRA net then that this is allowed. I never even tried that, but that's a good point.
In what you deployed, you haven't deployed a new resource claim. You just deployed the same, like a similar pod, and you pointed to the same resource claim.
That's correct. So I'm not sure how that's possible.
Yeah, in that case, yeah, you should create this resource claim template or create a new resource claim. But yeah,
wasn't that wasn't that the claim can be referenced by multiple pods?
Yes. The thing that you just show, yes, it is this. But I'm not sure if we should allow this because the resource claim status can contain only one device, like virtual device.
No, it's not. I'm not using the virtual devices here. Keep in mind, this is not partitioning nothing. This is just a.
I mean the resource claim status can contain only one device with only one like MAC address for what you claimed.
Okay, yeah, that's a for that specific device. That's true, but I would imagine I could have another entry here coming from the node 2 because keep in mind this is node 1, this is node 3. I have the same device on node 2, and this is what I would expect pod 2 to run on, but they didn't. Okay, let me dig into that. That's a thanks, Lionel, for this. Something to look into.
I mean, this also is not possible what you just mentioned because this status allocation node selector, you see.
Oh, I see what you're saying here.
And then this point to the first node that you have.
Oh, and the allocation is already a pair. Okay, I see. And it's a pair 1. Okay, I see. I got you. So I don't know how's that possible. Somehow DRA net doesn't take into account some things, or scheduler is. I think scheduler is banked because scheduler shouldn't allow this. Yeah, something's wrong. I wonder whether because I should not see the device in. Let's see, slice. Slice 3. This is what we discussed. Not found because it changed name or something. So the slides now have only one device. This is what we discussed right last week as well. That the taken device has been removed from the list, right? So I should not be able to schedule a new pod on this. So maybe there is some issue. This is, by the way, Kubernetes 32. It's not 33 yet. Gaurav?
I had a question regarding, I think, the previous point that Lionel, you were raising, that for a resource claim, you can still have multiple statuses for each individual device, right? So for example, devices is an array. So am I understanding that correctly?
Right, but the node selector points to just one. You cannot.
That's true. But for example, within the same node, I mean, it is not a limitation for us that you can access multiple interfaces through the same resource claim, right? I just want to confirm it's not a bug or anything.
I mean, let's go to the device. The keys. I mean, there is a set of keys for the device in the resource claim status that are the device name, the pool, and
that's free, right?
And driver. Right.
But for
example, it's also the same. It's also in the devices.
Oh, maybe it's because I use the same request name on the between the pods. Looks like there is some bug in the DRA scheduling because I use the same name, and maybe this is where it kind of blew up. Let me try. If I'm gonna delete the pod, that's probably gonna apply. Did that gonna release it or something? Where is this guy? No. Okay, because it's different pod now. Okay, that reference got removed, but I think it didn't get removed on that. And let's try to VI this guy, and let's rename the. No, the resource claim has to be the same because I that's wrong. Yeah, because it's just here. So that doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, something's wrong here. Maybe it's 32 only and it's 33. It get fixed, but something to look into.
Wasn't it the idea to have one resource claim per pod?
That is true, and that's fair point because you will end up with a resource claim per pod. You're talking about DRA idea or our idea?
Our idea for DRA.
Yeah, that will be, but we need to look at what DRA can do and adjust with that and ensure we are properly. Maybe that needs to be another requirement then to DRA and multi-network, that you have to have explicitly different resource claims per pod, to what you're saying, Lionel, so that we need to look at what DRA is capable of and then see whether that's a thing. That's a good. Let me dig into this further and see what's happening here.
From what Gaurav was proposing was to have for each, if I understood correctly, for each pod you have a new entry in the device list. Is that correct, Gaurav? That's what you were proposing?
No, yeah. So I was just saying, I think the devices section, the one that lists the network interface information, the network data already is a slice, right? So it says devices. So it is
but
possible
Gaurav, this
be...
does not map properly to the pod. I don't know which pod this is, right? Which pod
Yes,
I am
that is
referring.
true. Yes, that is true.
So that's a big gap, right? Because I don't know which one this one belongs to. And I have only reserved for a list, but this doesn't match anyways to this. So I don't know which one goes to what, right? So that's a big problem, right? Especially when I was able to add the pod 2, which I shouldn't be because there is no more resource ENS244 resource. So maybe it's a bug.
There is an error somewhere. I totally agree. Maybe we don't need to spend a lot of time digging to what.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions to this?
Yeah, another question about this resource slice, because your device is getting removed from the resource slice. This is not supposed to be the case, right?
So Lionel, I actually tagged you regarding this specific discussion on the DRA.
Yeah, but I think I misunderstood then on the conversation.
So I think from what I'm hearing from that latest discussion, it seems like we are moving towards the idea that we will be removing at least network devices from resource slices, because I think the idea that Antonio is proposing is something like, once you allocate a network device to a particular pod, the next time it is used by maybe, let's say, some other pod, it is not the same virtual device in some sense. Like, it has changed its properties. It is not possible to like recreate the exact same device which existed previously or something like that. So devices are fungible. But that specific discussion is still ongoing. I think you can refer that chat message. I'll add it to our meeting notes as well. But anyway, I think this is just an implementation detail and not something that we need to be concerned about with.
Yeah, that's it's you need to ensure that even so, if you list and then how you, because it's a database, right? We treat this as a database and list of all the devices you have with all the attributes. So how you implement it and how you deal with it, it's up to you, right? I think it does boil down to how often you would modify the slice itself, right? As you saw, I removed the name for the object completely changed, right? So basically, whenever you do any change, it recreates the whole object. So there is that aspect. So you create some churn on the API server. But I think this is up to you how you do it in the DRA. Any other questions? let me try to find where they had it. Yeah, this network. Oh, here. Where I had it here, demo. So this was here. I pasted the link into the notes to kind of, if you want to follow up on this. I will add some details on what kind of about the CRD annotation that you need to have. Okay.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Naming is hard. Pod network is already sort of used to describe the initial network we set up for every pod, right? Whether it's user namespace or network namespace, created. Is this an indication that we think we should be doing that from CRDs now?
That's the kind of gist of this. That's the point, right? So the name, I think, yeah, there was
It's
a big thing.
it's a superset now, and we'll have to create one. But we have a timing issue, right? We create when it's user namespace. We need the.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, when you're doing network namespacing, right? You could create it outside the container runtime. That's going to create some lifecycle issues, so we should probably talk about that. But more specifically, when we're using user namespacing, we have to let the runC engine create the namespace in the user namespace when that's created at containers create time. So we don't know, we can't just attach it later on. We have to create it and then tell you what it is.
I think so. Maybe step back. Maybe this is where the confusion is. Pod network from our point is, and I'm trying to describe that. There is a doc, and I assume maybe I'm still failing. There was so many discussions. So, kind of, this is a handle of the networks the pod can connect to and kind of unify the configuration for those.
A
right?
handle.
So,
okay.
A handle.
So
handle
not a
for
name.
that, right?
It's not already in a namespace yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is
it's a registration for the scheduler, yada yada. Okay. And somehow we've got to link that back into the actual namespace. Okay.
And actual basically interface with a common configuration that I'm going to pipe into the network namespace. Okay.
That's yeah. We have lots of different ways to pipe it and make it work.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have the CNIs now that we are focusing on NRI.
I know, and probably NRI or CDI, one of those two things.
Yeah,
and integrate with your manager and so DRA controller or whatever it's going to be. Okay, yeah. I'm just trying to get in my head. Okay, so a pod network is still what it is today. Only there'll be a version of it that has a handle that's passed down in the create of the pod for the run of the pod. You'll say, okay, this is the handle we're going to be using for the default for this one. And then somehow I've got to look that up and make that happen. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So this is
when I mean container D and
yeah, exactly. But that's true. So I think it's even less than that because DRA will be in the backend of this, as you saw. So basically what you get some parameters and your driver is gonna get called by NRI and
another device by another name. Hopefully not the same kind of, but yeah, okay. All right. And then I still have to give you the IP addresses and the name and the actual namespace and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
The IP maybe not because I can IPs can be we'll see how.
Anytime you run a pod, one of the return. I'm trying to figure this out in the context of our existing pod network. And one of the things that we do generate is from the sitter that's been configured, we generate the IP address, right, for the connection from kubelet to it, right? And we return that back in the run pod request. You get your list of IPs.
So we are not there yet to change that part, okay?
No, I didn't sound like you were changing it. I was just trying to understand in the context.
Sure. Handle makes
tons of
right
sense.
now, this approach, keep in mind, as you can, as you have, maybe not, you have not seen it. Let me show that, because kubectl get pod.
I've seen the prior ones where these were extra networks devices, right? But then it's called pod network now, and that.
So you can see I have still two interfaces. So this is the CNI that did their job, right? So
are you showing? Are you displaying something? I don't see.
Oh, I apologize. I stopped sharing. Oh, I did not know that.
And yeah, thanks. I'm just trying to get a little caught up here. Where you guys are at.
That's fine. Sorry, I missed that. I'm not sharing. So I logged in into the pod that we created, the pod 1, right? And you can see here, CNI is still in the path, right? So that part we didn't trickle into it.
Right, and you still have loopback. I see. Right.
And that's the default, right? But
which is still required. Yeah. Okay.
So
and neither of those are going to be the pod network yet until we can.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the CNI that did their job, and this is what the DRA net did, right? So right now we are just an add-on to, because it's NRI, right? I'm not sure that's visible. I can make it a bit smaller if you.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good. I can see it.
So that's what this is, and basically.
You said NRI, so you got a plugin that's helping out.
Yeah. This is the DRA net that goes through the NRI and plugs in this guy with. It just uses the IP that was on the interface at the start, so it just pushes that into the pod with the same thing. That's what this does.
I'm glad you guys are taking advantage of the NRI plugin. Where do you keep your plugin? Your NRI plugin, where's that host being hosted? Is it in containers?
That's on GitHub. Yeah, that's a container currently. Yeah, that's, as I mentioned, it's a daemon set here that just runs as a daemon set on the cluster. Right?
No, I mean, where's the GitHub? Where is it in GitHub?
Oh yeah, I linked that in the
meeting notes or something.
Yeah. There is a my private branch. You can look at
private branch. Okay.
But there is there is a whole DRA net. If you search for DRA net, you will see the official. It's on GitHub as well. The main, and I think mine will show you the where I'm forking from. Yeah, it will show you on the top where I'm forking from. So,
okay. So it's in the Google tree right now. You're gonna move it to Kubernetes SIGs or something like that, maybe, or is that?
I think that's owned by Antonio, and I will leave that to his. I just use the DRAnet because it has all the NRI plumbing in it, and I hack and slash it for my purpose. Okay, so
fair enough. We can move it around later. Hey, right now we're doing a lot of the NRI plugins in the GitHub containers tree. I don't know if you've been there before, but that's where a lot of the Intel plugins are sitting right now.
Oh, okay.
All right. Just trying to keep track of where all the NRI plugins
are. That's fine. So yeah, perfect.
All right, cool. Maybe I can point to this from our NRI repo. Yeah.
Yeah, you might sync with Antonio as well.
I'll sync. I'll let Antonio push the PR.
Yeah.
Just so we know where things are located.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just to be clear, like a lot of the stuff that's being discussed right now is like prototypes. So
it's all proto. I understand, and so is NRI. That's why I'm asking. we haven't made version 1.0, and what I need to know from this kind of exercise is, do we have to have some initial stuff in NRI before we go 1.0? I'm thinking November for the next KubeCon is the goal. But I wanted to see if we're missing something.
If I were to think about one thing, is adding of this ability to because this is the resource claim. I'm not sure how much. Is NRI aware of resource claim at all or not? Probably not, right? I think we talked about that. It's not, right? Okay, never mind.
Not if you're passing through any special annotations, we could certainly parse that. But yeah, not yet. We don't have. Hey, Lionel. Go ahead.
Yes, I think there's two things in NRI that must be improved. The first is what is in the agenda is the pod IPs for the primary network that should be reported. And the second thing is, I saw an issue at some point. I can try to find it. It's to be aware that the NRI, I mean, Kubernetes is to be aware of NRI plugins, because if you create a pod and the NRI plugin is not existing, then your resource is not plugged in your pod.
I agree. We're going to have, Lionel, some stuff going on to make sure that we have must-have NRI plugins. Some way to configure the ones that have to be running and then report whether or not they are. The reason why we won't run a pod is because your plugin that you said is required isn't up.
So so what you're saying, Lionel, the NRI plugins are not non-blocking. Are non-blocking.
Currently, but we understand we understand the requirement to make them blocking if for these kinds of dependent, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to prove out your resource claim. Especially as Lionel was mentioning, if this becomes the primary network and you've got additional config that we've got to parse and use and pass to the NRI plugins so that you can do the work, right? After we create the namespace. Yeah, we've got here to help. Me and you and Antonio, Lionel, can probably handle everything. But yeah, whatever you need, we're ready to merge.
I sent the link for this issue in the chat.
Thanks.
It was for Istio use cases, I think, but it's the same problem that we will have with DRNet, and the CNIDR driver has the same problem. Got
it. And we can probably link a. They tagged me in here. All right. Oh, you did. I have too many tags. Sorry.
Yeah, I told you in KubeCon about this issue. Anyway.
Right. I remember talking about it. But then I see here now it's called Pod Network, and I didn't understand the handle thing, but we got it now.
Oh, okay.
The Pod Network is for us to build on top of this, right? For the next as a next stage. Right now it's just like, okay, we have a flavor, additional attributes.
I'm a little concerned about lifecycle, but we can probably handle that, as we go along. Insofar as on our side of it, right, we'll have removed the network namespace, and you still have a handle. So
the handle is global. Keep in mind the handle is global. It's not.
It's not tagged to a specific pod.
It's not. So what is tagged to a specific pod?
Not even the slice.
The resource claim is tagged to the pod, right? This is what it says. Keep in mind, or maybe look at. I think I have updated. So maybe this is a good segue. I have updated. Let me switch to that.
Mike,
if it's global, then I can see how that wouldn't be an issue. So it's a node scope. Yeah. And we say global, I think you mean node scope, or is that some
cluster scope? Yeah.
Cluster scope. Okay. Well,
so Mike, I might be misunderstanding. I think you think Pod Network is like mapping to a network namespace, whereas I think when Maciej said Pod Network, what Maciej is saying is that Pod Network is sort of like a more abstract notion. That's like a cross.
That's what I'm trying to map.
Yeah,
exactly. So, if you go look at all the Kubernetes documentation about what a pod network is, that's that thing in CNI.
Well, that's some feedback that there might be some name collision there.
I need to look at that. Yeah, because
it's confusing. But it sounds like it becomes the superset, and there's a handle, and it's associated at a cluster level.
But I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I need to look in what does the notion of pod network is in this. I assume this is in CRI concept, right, Mike? Is that true?
It's the life cycle is scoped such that each pod has a pod network that's connected and can communicate between the containers, blah, 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 right? That's why the loopback was required, for example, well as it's an IP address that the kubelet can talk to. Go ahead, Guru.
I think when Mike is saying pod network, we are talking about the general notion of how Kubernetes defines pod networking to be, right? Where we are expecting some constraints like each pod should get its own IP, and things like each pod should be able to talk to each other. Basically, those things.
And
right?
a default configured device using CNI.
Yes. Whereas for us, pod network has a slightly different, maybe a broader meaning. We are talking about pod network in terms of a custom or of a resource, and that the parameters of that resource control how pod network will behave in certain manner.
Right. Okay.
And that is a notion across the cluster, because imagine I have in my example, I was showing ENS224, right? Imagine that ENS224 at the backend outside of the node is connected to some specific switch or VLAN or what's not. And then I have those ENS224 across all my nodes in the cluster, right? So that's what pod network then kind of encompasses. So yeah, that's something that this is. And then it kind of does trickles down to, okay, one of the and how I'm then piping it to the pod namespace, and then, but this is just one off, right? What I'm getting at as well is you can have n number of pod networks per pod.
Right.
Okay, is that
in a logical context?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And that makes sense. And I'm just I'm being pedantic. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what does it mean to the physical one that we currently are required to create, right? It doesn't sound like you're going to slice that one or DRA enable that one just yet. Maybe, I don't know. It would be difficult if you got a resource claim across an entire cluster and that device is busy and now you can't create any other pods. You see what it doesn't quite fit.
I'm missing something. Sorry, I missed that. What do you mean?
No, I was just saying if this pod network has a handle and the handle happens to be sub-0 or 1 to represent the actual pod networking network for that device, ETH0, for example, right? That's currently being set up on all the pods that are created, including the ones that may already be running, since before the upgrade to the version that has this support, right?
Yeah, I think like the default network probably may have to be handled differently.
Yeah,
that's
I don't want to have these like bootstrap problems.
That's what I'm thinking. You got bootstrap problem. Exactly.
So I did called out, and maybe not touch today. Don't want to start this.
I see you got the next network default hard approach.
Yeah, let's talk about this and what does that mean. And
yeah,
I think keep in mind what we are working here is not core; it's an add-on. Think Gateway API, right?
That's where I thought we were, but it's called pod network, so it's like okay.
Okay, but yeah, we are an add-on, not part of the core. So what we can state at the end is, and this is what I'm want to call out a hard approach where pod network represents all the networking done in your cluster, right? So including the default, right? And basically at that point, this mode can only maybe be applicable to new clusters, not upgradable, right? Or might have a downtime when you switch to it, right?
Right.
Something along those lines. We're gonna discuss more probably next week. So yeah, please comment.
Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Cool.
Since I still have you, Mike, this is something that I see Lionel mentioned that he wants to tackle on. I assume, Lionel, you have in mind to
answers yes, Lionel. Of course we can. We'll allow you to mutate that. Let's do a PR, and you can modify the IPs.
So not that part. I think. Is it possible that
NRI? We've got a set of IPs that we return. So either that we could have a second set if you need that to happen.
It's not. I think I'm still. Let me ask the question.
Sorry.
So I think, and Lionel, you have here in mind to return and update the pod status. Is that correct?
Yes.
Exactly. So.
Right.
So what if we were to be able to update the resource claim status with this instead, since we are using the array? Is there any ways to, or that's something that kind of CRI will not be able to coordinate?
No, don't worry about that. I mean, Sorry if I'm cutting you off too early.
Because I wonder whether, because you saw my status of the resource claim that Lionel added a status, a networking piece over there. So I wonder whether this is something that we can return to the NRI and say,
Absolutely.
okay, you know what, go to this claim and update kubelet, or you tell to the kubelet, you know what, this is the handle for the resource claim. Can you update this additional status for the for it, right? Because right now what I had to do is that had to be done by my driver, right? My driver had to reach out to the API and do all the updates. I wonder whether that's something that we can push on kubelet. I'm not sure whether that's valid even to do.
Yeah. I mean, well, real quick, right? Pod status has an info section. It's ad hoc. We can add additional content to the status that's reported. So right alongside of where we give them a list of IPs, we could either add additional fields to the non-info structure, or for the temporary time basis, we can go ahead and add additional ad hoc data structures for you to return when somebody calls pod status with verbose, which is default. So yes, we can let NRI pipe through on pod status when kubelet requests the status. That's easy enough to do. Yes.
But CRI is not aware of resource claim at all.
Well, I mean, annotation comes. You can start with the annotation until we've added to CRI these additional handles, right? Or just an additional device list. Either way, I don't really. I'm not concerned. We can just sit down with the cryo team and make sure that happens, right, Lionel? So coming down through, or you could just continue. You could just run your plugin and have it do an async, setup with kubelet. But then you end up with some, again, life cycle timing issues, right? But yeah, if you wanted, when you create the pod, you can just give us the additional content and we'll store it in the container runtime in the metadata for the pod that gets reported in the status. Easy enough.
Again, I think this is, you're still getting stuck on the pod. That we are what we are wondering, can we update something else than just the pod? That's the question, I think.
Well, what is that else thing?
The resource claim.
Okay. So, but you're allocating that in kubelet. So what I was proposing was you would throw in a handle, right? And then NRI would be able to report the status. But you're right. I mean, we don't have the context of a cluster, right, at all. But we do have runtime status. If you guys needed, if you wanted to modify our runtime status, then we could do it at that level. And that's our node status.
Because Macho, what was the problem with the DRA driver updating the IPs in the resource claim status?
It wasn't a problem, Lionel. It's just, it's more cleaner, I would say.
Okay.
You don't have to deal with that. It's like, okay, I updated that guy and then return the status to NRI, and then NRI and kubelet handles it. That's just my kind of thinking, and the only reason for this to kind of get to the state where the DRA driver doesn't need a service account. Today I have to have a service account with RBAC and additional accesses to stuff, right? I wonder if I can get to the stage where like example, like, I don't know, I have a SAMDOS CNIs, right? Like host local, not local, like IP VLAN or something. It doesn't need anything. You provide the config and it just does itself without anything. Boom, bam, and return stuff and it's done, right? Can DRA drivers be like that? Right now, they cannot. They have to have a service account, RBAC, and what's that, right? So this is where I wonder whether we could achieve that. And yeah, to do that, definitely we will need to have some help from the NRI. And don't get me wrong, I do understand the driver does two things: the discovery and the piping. But the discovery is asynchronous, right? So it doesn't block the pod. And I'm more concerned about port startup, right? Because if I have to do API in the middle, my port startup gets delayed, right? And this is where I'm kind of pushing.
Which is why I'm asking the question on the life cycle. Yep.
Yeah.
But there is another. I mean, that's one call, updating the status. But you have the call to get the resource claim itself. You need to get the resource claim from the DRA driver. So you also
yeah. So not exactly, because what I did, I'm not sure whether that's possible. This is again implementation detail. I had to hold a local database. So right now, what the DRA net does is gathers the resources and just pushes it to the DRA plugin, right? Whatever it is in the discovery.
Yeah, but it gets it when there's the prepare resource call from kubectl.
Yeah,
so it gets it still at that time. So you still
and
need
it
to
pulls
have
it, yeah, from the API,
yeah.
right? What you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
I think,
Just
yeah. So
what DRNet is doing is that at that time of allocating time, it gets it from the API, stores it in some kind of database, and then when the pod is being created via the NRI plugin, then at that time you get it from this database.
Got it. That makes sense. So you don't, yeah. So you don't really need the status then from CRI. You're handling it separately in that case.
Yeah. That's where I'm wondering whether we can do better than that. But if that's the only way, then yes. I think this is where the kind of the discussion comes from, right? And
well, here's something to think about. If the container runtime is creating the namespace for you, and then you do whatever you want with it, which sounds like what you're doing it from the NRI plugin, you're going to attach this additional network. Sounds good. It's just that if we don't know about the additional network somehow, right, then we're just going to kill the pod. Sorry, we didn't know you did something with it, right?
Oh, okay. In terms of like cleanup afterwards.
Right.
I see.
We'll bring the loop
right
back down and we're done, right? We kill the namespace and oh shoot.
Right? Usually, I'm not sure about, but usually if I'm not wrong, if you kill the namespace, won't that return the devices, net devices, at least into back?
That have been attached. Yeah, it might do that.
But you can catch it before you have the NRI hook to get the pod deletion.
Yeah, but but basically, if the NRI, if the CRI is aware of the pod networks as well, then it can explicitly either do some additional cleanup on its own or block on if you didn't clean up properly, right? Something like that. So there can be additional handling from the CRI as well if it knows about the additional pod networks. I think that's what Mike says, right?
Right. Yeah, I need to know if I'm onboarding or not, and that's fine. And you're right, Lionel. That the NRI plugin could abort the stop request. So we could handle it there, or handle a failure on the restart, right?
Yeah, okay. We do trickle into this as well, and maybe that's the way to do it. I'm not sure, but all right. Folks, we have 2 more minutes. I just want to call out that design, and this is Mike for you to kind of, if you want to get more details on that, please read through this. I updated it to what I did in the demo, and I think the last pieces are about the default pod network, which you can skip. There's like 2 paragraphs, small ones. But basically the rest is what I just discussed about the DRA, how integrating on all that. So please give it a read. I am hoping to get this presented in, I'm not sure when the next SIG network is. It's this week, probably in 2 weeks, giving myself some time. So not this Thursday, but in 2 weeks, I would like to go. We have a holiday. Okay. So it might not happen. So probably in a month's time. There's another holiday. Oh my gosh, it's another holiday. All right. So okay, I'm giving myself quite a lot of time. Looks like, because we are gonna, unless the SIG network's gonna maybe move someday. I don't know. That's kind of unusual situation. Maybe okay. Let's first target in 2 weeks. Maybe that's the even though day off. Maybe it's only for us. Maybe the SIG network's gonna happen anyway. So in 2 weeks at least, at the earliest, I will try to present this and seek for approval for this from SIG networking. So I would like us to get approvals on that doc. Please read through it so that we are all, at least within this community, aligned on, yes, that's the path we want to go, and yes, this design is exactly what we want to push for. Please leave comments in the doc. Let's update it, and I want to get to the stage where this is what we want to push to the SIG network and get approval from them. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks everyone. Let's call it here today, and let's meet next week. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Cheers.